Immediately after picking up the phone, the teller is told, "I want $100,000 in large bills and no die packs. I will be sending someone into the bank to get the money. Don't call the police. We are monitoring the police scanner. Do you understand? We are not afraid to take hostages and turn the place into a bloodbath." Anyone who has even dipped their toe into personal development knows about the power of optimization and of being certain of your goal. What you can believe, you can achieve.
We're gonna win because the whole season we did what?
Believe to achieve!
Yeah! I believe, Hank! We'll win because our Lord Jesus Christ shows us to win!
Okay, Enrique.
And if you have a strong enough goal and intention and some super strong good feelings, well, damn it, you can do just about anything if only you believe, Peter Pan.
Now, if you have a strong enough plan or commitment, total commitment, that no matter what it takes can happen, if you have enough enough strong enough internal feeling attached to a plan, then that internal feeling will cause it to drop into your unconscious mind, and then you'll manifest it. So the key here is to create a strong enough internal feeling that it drops into your unconscious, and one way to do that is create a plan. Right? Another one is to create the kind of commitment that it doesn't matter, whatever it takes, you'll find a way. But see, that has to be a consistent emotion.
You just gotta jam that good stuff into your mind. The secret sitting right in front of you all along has been your will and intention. Didn't you know? If only you had just believed and cared enough, stuff would just work out. And this idea of believe to achieve, or whatever form you like, taken to its logical limits, is where we get ideas like the law of attraction and the 4-hour work week. In the 4-hour work week specifically, Timothy Ferriss, following this line of thought, recommends basically outsourcing your entire life and becoming a douchebag, like winning a kickboxing contest by rapidly dropping 30 pounds before the weigh-in and then forcing all of his opponents to ring out. Essentially a cheap trick no one was expecting because it's not really fighting fair, plus the small weight advantage gave him an advantage there too.
Hope you enjoyed the book, and just remember that outside of the law and science, all of the rules we follow are rules we set ourselves. So set yourself up to win and choose your own rules.
But without douchery and outsourcing, how would you realistically only work 4 hours a week and make a full-time income? You have to be already successful and willing to hire more people, or be really delusional to even try it. I know, I did, and I was for sure delusional. What a world.
So is this possible? Absolutely. But are most people going to be able to do this? Absolutely not.
But pushing my experience aside, how realistic is this idea of something like a 4-hour work week? Can somebody really set up and optimize their lives by just making the right plan and optimizing it? Is that all it takes? The right plan? And really, can everything be outsourced? Let's explore this idea by looking at the case of a man optimizing his process and testing whether or not he could outsource his crimes. Albert Bailey is a 20-something guy from Connecticut. He's the kind of guy who lies and steals to fix a problem. Some might say he's not very bright, but I would say he's rather ingenious, just in a limited way. But one thing about him that is for sure, he's the kind of guy that's always scheming and ready for his next plan. On July 8th, 2003, a 20-year-old Albert Bailey enacted one of these plans. Focused on his goal, he arrived at the People's Bank on Madison Avenue in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's a beautiful day stuck between the 70s and 80s Fahrenheit, so it's likely everyone was in shorts and t-shirts. Albert holds a piece of paper and an empty manila envelope, likely looking like an everyday dude doing everyday business at the bank. Except there's also a large bulge in one of his pockets. Maybe he's just happy to see one of the tellers way in advance. But probably not. And ew. I can't believe he'd even think something like that. Maybe he wore a hoodie, but it's so hot I doubt it. Regardless, he opens the door and begins what to his mind is a brilliant plan. At the window, he places the note and the envelope in the teller's hands, while pointing to the bulge in his pocket. Now, if the bomb was in his pants pockets, we can only imagine the position he'd have to be in to motion to his pants pockets below the counter, and how far back he'd have to be for her to see him. Maybe it was Jim Carrey-esque. Maybe it was subtle. We don't know, but I like the Jim Carrey interpretation. Though all things considered, maybe he wore a hoodie after all. Regardless of his attire, though, the note demanded $50,000 in cash. He motions to a bulge he calls a bomb, and the teller promptly gets the money for him and places it in the envelope. The teller also promptly pushed the button to alert the police without him noticing. as Albert was apprehended basically the moment he walked out of the bank. During interrogation, he claims that earlier in the day, a man he didn't know had kidnapped him, placed a bomb in his pocket, and told Albert that if he didn't rob that bank, the bomb would detonate, killing him and the others around him. So, for the greater good, he had to rob that bank. I mean, it's the classic story. Man is kidnapped by, then blackmailed to rob a bank. Could have totally happened to Albert Bailey. But his logic would tell most of us. As court proceedings got underway, he eventually just pleads guilty and is sent to prison where he has a long time to scheme. And this is a good time to point out how stupid bank robbery is. He got maybe $50,000, which he couldn't spend, and he spent 7 years in prison for it. Being generous and rounding up the change, this is $7,143 a year. There are much better legal hustles where you can make that little money. Anyway, 7 years later, in 2010, he is released. On parole, of course. And of course, at 27, he's wiser and is ready to hatch a better scheme, one he's been incubating for years. Only this time he needs some help. He enlists the aid of a younger male cousin, a juvenile, about 16 years old, with the same familial zest for scheming, or at least the inability to escape the charisma or something of his older cousin Albert. Together, they decide to enact one of Albert's schemes. Something so ingenious in a way it's hard to fathom. Though one might say it's the optimized version of his previous scheme. After 7 years of thought, things change a little. But apparently Albert Bailey had not changed all that much after all. To prepare, they make a to-do list with down-to-the-minute timing for their phone call, getting to the bank, getting into the bank, and fleeing the bank. Seems like Albert really had awoken the giant within. He was a man with a plan. They also get a police scanner and tune it to the Fairfield PD frequency and walkie-talkie so they can communicate. One would think specifically because this cannot be traced, but since it's 2010, it's really hard to say. They might just both not have had cell phones, especially a kid or somebody being fresh out of a prison stint. It's really hard to say, but it is odd to think about how pervasive technology is in our time and the way that it changes our belief structures about stories from the past. Anyway, what's clear is that they had at least one cell phone that stayed with Albert during the plan. On March 23, 2010, or somewhere thereabout, Albert and his cousin roll up to the People's Bank in Fairfield. And really, one has to wonder, what in the hell did People's Bank do to Albert? Was it just a bank he knew really well? Had they charged him excessive fees? Was a teller rude to him? We may never know. Regardless, nearby, Albert calls the Fairfield People's Bank. Immediately after picking up the phone, the teller is told, "I want $100,000 in large bills and no die packs. I will be sending someone into the bank to get the money. Don't call the police. We are monitoring the police scanner. Do you understand? We are not afraid to take hostages and turn the place into a bloodbath," the voice on the phone states repeatedly. "We'll be there in 10 minutes. Get the money ready." Immediately after hanging up, the teller calls 911 and initiates a lockdown of the bank location. Meanwhile, the call-ahead robbers make it to the bank. Albert's cousin jumps out of the car and scurries in, narrowly missing the lockdown. Safely inside, the cousin hands a bank teller a note demanding $100,000 without uttering a sound. He puts a briefcase on the counter and opens it. That probably made a sound. Again, the phone rings. The caller asks for the supervisor by her first name. When she gets on the phone, the voice says, "Do you see my associate? Don't make a scene because we will take hostages," the voice on the phone tells her. The teller being robbed is only able to collect about $900 and places the stack of cash in the open briefcase. Likely filled with stress, and realizing he's locked in and up shit creek at this point, or even naively assuming he had all the money, the cousin closes the briefcase and makes his way to the exit. At the door, he politely asks, "Can you let me out? Because the bank is locked down." The bank obliges, allowing him to exit out the front door, right into the loving arms of the Fairfield PD. "Stop!" screams an officer in vain, as the cousin flees to Albert's waiting getaway car. As the cousin tries to get in, the police surround the car and put guns to the call-ahead bandits' heads. Knowing they're fucked, they surrender without further incident and are arrested for first-degree robbery and threatening in the first degree. The cousin drops the money on the ground as he's put in cuffs, causing the ink pack to explode all over the money. For whatever reason, this gave the ink pack the force or the distance needed to explode. However, it should be noted that there is some discrepancy in the sources. Most say what is reported above, but local newspapers discussing the sentencing who generally have more information in hindsight, report it like this. After asking to be let out of the bank, the cousin exits the bank with his itty-bitty bounty and walks to the parking lot of a nearby condominium complex called Dogwood Green Condominiums. The moment the cousin gets in the car, they hit the road. But at this point, it's too late. The Fairfield PD arrive just as they're pulling out of the condominium parking lot. I'm not even going to comment on how punny that is, holy crap. And the police surround the car and point their guns at the call-ahead kleptos, who immediately surrender. As you probably imagine, at the beginning of the trial phase, Albert pleads guilty for the second time in his life. He pleads to conspiracy to commit second-degree robbery, harassment, and being a persistent, dangerous felony offender. So as part of the plea, he's charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, which is odd considering the fact that they actually kind of succeeded, at least with getting $900 out of the door. But this is probably an amended sentence because he pled. You know, a plea deal. And considering the fact that they had possession of $900 for only a few minutes, and Albert alone faced 9 years in prison, this $100 a year salary job as a bank robber is probably the only job in the US that pays less than prison labor does. And that salary becomes only $50 a year if the cousin got a similar sentence. He's a juvenile, so it's unclear because the records are sealed. But either way, with this story, do you see what I'm saying about optimization? He basically uses the same shtick. Somebody puts someone up to a robbery at People's Bank with fake weapons. But do we really think that Albert read Think and Grow Rich in prison and really thought if he just believed hard enough he could make anything work? I mean, he did 2x his goal from 50,000 to 100,000. But that might have been inflationary too. Maybe he came across the 2006 sensation The Secret and thought, man, this is it. I have finally saved up emotional escrow that I can pull off the heist of the century. I mean, maybe, right? Maybe he just likes scheming, and his optimization is just incidental and part of a plan to just do a better robbery in his mind. And I'm overreading this point because I think it's ironic in a funny way. Or do you agree with the cops that this was a harebrained scheme, like Sergeant James Perez, Fairfield police spokesman, who says the men are not too bright, noting they should have spent time in school instead of trying to rob a bank. On the same token, Detective Lieutenant Michael Gagner of the Fairfield, Connecticut Police Department clowns Albert with this quip. I've heard of drive-up robberies where they rob the bank via the drive-up windows, but I've never had someone call ahead and say, get the money, we're coming. We were all kind of cracking up at the call ahead aspect of it. Definitely an unusual technique. Sarcasm aside, I'm on the side that Albert is rather bright, just likely stuck in emotional loops and stupid ideas. Given his imagination and planning abilities, he might be able to do some really cool things. But I do hope wherever he is, he's staying out of prison. I couldn't find anything about Albert in the current Connecticut inmate searches, so I believe he is free and hasn't returned to prison, which makes sense considering this was 13 years ago at this point, so he'd be around 40 years old. Though this doesn't always stop people from committing crime, age has a way of calming some people, particularly some people who spent half their life in prison already. But I really do love the idea of Albert reading Think and Grow Rich and thinking to himself, robbing a People's Bank is my not stopping 3 feet from gold moment. That said, I still think that this is a prime example of how optimism and just thinking you're going to succeed can fail. You really, really need more than mind state and a plan to get things going. And you can often find success much easier with concerted daily action and a shitty mentality than you can with a great mentality and very little action.
What are you talking about, a written request? Well, who's got the keys?
Look, I'm coming down there in 5 minutes. You better have those files open, you pencil-pushing son of a bitch.
But that's just my 2 cents on it. What do you think? Tell the world in the comments. Great debates to be had. If you like this video and you know it, click subscribe. If you like this video and you know it, click subscribe. If you like this video and you really want to show it, share this video with your friends. And thanks for watching. It really means the world to me to have a chance to tell interesting stories to a growing group of people like yourself. And whether or not you found yourself loving this video, I really appreciate you. And I hope to see you again soon, because there's always something lurking underneath the floorboards. Somewhere. As you probably know, most of the stories I tell are pretty intense, but this one is actually about the same tone as this video. It's about a clerk who calls the police because of a disorderly patron and ends up getting arrested himself. Or check out this series about the conspiracies around the Astroworld tragedy. If you find my humor humorous, you'll love this series, as it's like 85% snark, 15% pointing out how flimsy the conspiracies are, often with more snark. it may actually be 99.9% snark. Who knows? Definitely an undiscovered gem in the rough known as Beneath the Floorboards YouTube channel. Or maybe it's a piece of shit, who knows? You could let me know.